Hello, everybody, and welcome to Taking Control, the ADHD podcast on True Story FM. I'm Pete Wright, and that right there is my AI co-pilot, Nikki Kinzer.
Hello, everyone. Here I am. Hello, Pete Wright, AI.
Nikki LLM. This is very exciting. This was by request. I think it was by your request.
It is by
my
request.
To do a show about AI. Yes. So people aren't banging down the door of your office saying, please talk about AI on the show again.
Well, people are banging down the door asking, actually letting me know how they're using AI in these fabulous ways to help them with their ADHD. And, it's a topic that I thought we need to discuss.
Yeah, I think it's a good topic to discuss. And it changes so fast. I think there's room to do these kinds of conversations, with some frequency. I just want to set up the way I've approached the outline for today's. I'll have some recommendations of products, but there's also a lot of just how should we be thinking about AI in terms of our ADHD and our lives. And so I hope there's a healthy balance between the two. This is not just a product recommendation show.
Right.
And I know people are looking for product recommendation show, but it's the same thing. What's the best tool for ADHD? What's the best planner for ADHD? There isn't one.
Right.
It's whatever is best for you and what you need it for. So that's kind of how I'm approaching this conversation, and we'll take it from there.
Sounds
First,
good.
before we dig in, head over to takecontroladhd.com and get to know us a little bit better. You can listen to the show right there on the website or subscribe to the mailing list, and we will send you an email each time a new episode is released. You can connect with us on Blue Sky or Facebook or Instagram or Pinterest at Take Control ADHD. But to really connect with us, join us in the ADHD Discord community. It's super easy to jump in the general community and chat channel. Just visit takecontroladhd.com/Discord, and you'll be whisked over to the general invitation and log in. And if you're looking for a little bit more, you know the drill. This is my most exciting thing. I don't know if you've heard, but the economy is doing some strange things. And that means advertising is doing some strange things. And that means member support means more than ever. And if you are in a privileged place to be able to support the podcast you love, you should know that support goes longer than it ever has, given the crazy economy that we are living in. So head over to patreon.com/the ADHD podcast to become a supporting member of this show. And the people who put it on, the whole team, that gets you access to early releases of the show, access to the live streams when we record, so you can hear all of our movie recommendations and planning conversations. And the Q&A at the end of the show, the live Q&A. It gets you access to all kinds of fun stuff in our Discord community that the normies don't see. The normies don't get the special secret stuff. No. So we really invite you to join and support this community because it is very, very meaningful and likely will continue to be meaningful for the indefinite future. Your support means more now than ever. Patreon.com/the ADHD podcast. For some people, Nikki, it is a marvel. It's an efficiency machine. It's a digital assistant. It's a second brain. You hear all of these kinds of terms. For others, it's a mystery. It's a black box. It is very, very confusing. There is a reason that AI is controversial, not just because of how it's made, trained on vast swaths of human labor without consent, but because of what it represents, a tool that could either liberate or trap us. For people with ADHD, AI is both a promise and peril. It has the peril to organize our chaotic thoughts, to structure our days, to help us follow through. But it also has the power to pull us deeper into the distractions we already struggle with. So today we're asking the question, can artificial intelligence truly help ADHD minds thrive? Or is it just another mirage in the desert of productivity hacks? That's my opening statement. What do you think? Where do you come at this stuff?
I find it really powerful. I find it to be not always accurate and sometimes not helpful. So there's a little bit of a balance, but I, for personal reasons, I find it very helpful in a lot of ways. And with clients, I have found it to be very helpful for them in some ways, but I also have some clients who do not want to be a part of it. So I think your description here is definitely true with what I see with the people that I help and support.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know. I mean, I think if you're listening to the show and you're one of those people who absolutely don't want to be a part of ADHD, I guess I'd ask
ADHD
you to continue
or
listening.
AI? Because they may not want to be a part of ADHD.
I'm an AI right now, so I make mistakes. Right. That's my
That was
my
a
out.
mistake. Yeah. It was a good one.
If you're listening to this and you don't want to have anything to do with AI, I get it. I respect it. And I think that, you might just find yourself screaming at your phone if you continue to listen to this conversation. Not because I'm necessarily a 100% booster of AI, but because I do believe that the tools themselves have already demonstrated purpose in my life. And it solves a problem. And I'll talk about kind of the mental model I use for when I approach a tool with AI to organize my thoughts and when I won't. But you may find that if you don't want to have that conversation, it's okay to turn us off.
Right.
You don't have to listen and just be mad. I encourage you not to listen and don't hate listen to us. Never hate listen to us. Just turn it off. Your day will be better. So with that glowing invitation to our conversation,
right? Yes.
Let us begin. So, ADHD, we as we talk about, it's framed as a disorder and that we're all out looking to fix our ADHD. But, it's a conversation. ADHD is a conversation about creativity and restlessness in our creative approach to solving problems and focus. And so I really started thinking about this as a paradox of the attention economy, that we live in this age where everyone struggles with focus, notifications, and information overload, and endless digital noise, right? This modern world is ADHD inducing.
Absolutely.
Right. And I think, ironically, ADHD minds are made for it, right? We actually, I think, in spite of the fact that we complain about the fact that we're overloaded with information, our minds jump between ideas very, very quickly. They connect dots that others miss. And AI might just be the perfect partner for a nonlinear brain like ours. That is, so I'm an optimist when it comes to stuff. If you haven't gotten that from me yet. So that's what we're exploring today. So let's start with ADHD and your AI sidekick. So a person A, we'll call them Joey. Joey wakes up, does not have AI, wakes up immediately overwhelmed by a flood of forgotten tasks, right? Do you know the feeling when you wake up in the morning and you realize, oh my God, I don't know where this idea comes from. It's Monday morning and the time changed yesterday and I lost an hour, but my body didn't wake up on time, even though my brain has been up for an extra hour perseverating on the things that I forgot to do yesterday. And now I've lost an hour and my day is ruined. I don't know who that guy is. We'll call him Joey or Pete.
Or Pete AI.
Pete AI. Pete opens email and is totally sidetracked by new ideas and requests and forgets what he was supposed to do in the first place. By noon, he started 5 projects, finished none, and feels exhausted. 5 is a low number for me. It is a low number. No boxes checked, no projects shipped. And that is...
And a shame spiral.
That's
probably
a shame spiral.
Waiting to happen. Yes.
So in spite of this next thing I'm going to say sounding like a commercial for products, what if Pete AI were to wake up to motion AI, which dynamically organizes my day based on the priorities I've set and the time I have available? What if I use reclaim AI, which schedules my tasks automatically based on urgency and time available? What if by noon I've actually completed deep work without mental exhaustion of keeping the tasks at the top of my head? What if I was allowed to offload those tasks to a system that actually learns from how I do my work and schedules those things for me?
That sounds amazing.
It is the ultimate expression of the brain dump, right? We talk about the brain dump as this thing that we use to get all the ideas out of our head. But the cavern that exists between getting the ideas out of our head and getting the ideas turned into work that we do can be vast for people. What if these AI tools actually have an answer to that crevasse, that gorge? I don't know. I'm using a lot of words that loosely mean things adjacent to other things. Big space between two ideas, that's what we're trying to close with some of these tools. So AI isn't necessarily about productivity for productivity's sake. And that's why I don't just recommend go use AI, because there's no AI in the context of this conversation. There are specific tools and implementations that may work for your brain better than others. So that's, yes, you're literally raising your hand.
Yes. So I know that when I first started using AI, you told me to look into Poe.
I did.
And Poe has a bunch of different types of AI included in it. Would I be able to find motion AI and reclaim AI in Poe?
No.
Okay, good to know.
Okay, but I'm so glad you brought that up. We're going to talk about Poe in a little bit. But first, I have to introduce chapter 2.5 in my discussion.
I love it.
The 0.5 represents, oops, I forgot to talk about a thing. I better insert it here.
Okay.
This is where we have to understand AI models. Have you heard people talking about models?
No. This is all very new to me. And this is exactly why I wanted to do this show. I know about Poe, and I know about Poe because of Pete.
Poe, Pete, models. All right. When you open Poe, you see this list of they call them bots, right?
Right.
Each one of those bots that you can have a chat with is a model. They're all models. Poe is a bucket of models. What is a model? All right. So when companies talk about AI, they're really talking about AI models. These are complex systems trained to recognize patterns in massive amounts of data. These models, they aren't thinking, right? They really aren't thinking the way humans think, the way humans take information and synthesize it based on lived experience and emotion and personal connection. They're not thinking like that. They're predicting based on past information what the most likely response, action, or suggestion is going to be. For ADHD minds, this is really important to understand because AI is not intelligent in the way that we are. It is a pattern recognition machine. It can assist, but not replace our creative thinking, right? If you ask it to replace your creative thinking, if you ask it to write stuff for you, it's going to be at best a C student right now, right? It's not not really great at just doing things without you, but like someone who has, like me, who's aging and eyes are getting bad and need glasses, AI is my cognitive glasses in some respects, right?
Well, and I just want to say it kind of will go overboard sometimes too, because like I'll look at the creative writing model and I'll ask it to, because of GPS, our planning membership, I'll ask it to put this paragraph in like GPS terms, like make it fun, creative with things that are about the road and signs and, all of that. And it completely goes overboard. Like every other word has something to do with some kind of mapping type of language.
Yeah, right.
So it can kind of go over the top.
Yeah, contextually, it sees GPS as a navigation concept and dives deep into
right into it.
right?
Yeah.
Right into
I mean,
it.
some of it is cute and fun, but
yeah,
not every other word. Yeah.
right, right. So, and I think you're getting to it because the AI has no intent, it has no self-awareness, it has no creativity in and of itself. It just mimics intelligence by predicting patterns based on the patterns it's been exposed to before. So we have to think of AI as a well-trained assistant, right? It learns from billions of examples that have been forced down its AI throat. It predicts what you probably mean when you ask it something, and probably is in bold italics in that sentence because it doesn't really know what you mean. It knows what it thinks you mean. It doesn't understand the way you and I do. It just uses statistical guesses to generate responses, right? Different AI providers train their models on different types of data. Some models are great for text, like ChatGPT and Claude. We talk about those all the time. Others for images, like Midjourney or DALL-E. Some for task automation and scheduling, like Reclaim AI. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Hang on. Because not all models are created equal, we have to take the time to learn a little bit about which models work for which tasks. That's one of the reasons that I like Poe. Because Poe is a bucket of models, it allows you to experiment with the text generation models and some of the what they call multimodal models where you can generate images inside of Poe. It allows you to experiment to see, will this model serve my needs better than that model? And test it out. They're all very different. Here's the next piece that's really going to bake your noodle. They change all the time. You could be using Claude confidently to help you write your marketing copy, and one day Claude just starts to suck because they continue to train it and its model just chokes. And you have to move to ChatGPT or, one of the other models. Each of the providers, Anthropic is the provider of Claude. They have multiple different versions of Claude that all do different things.
Right. I've noticed that. Mm-hmm.
Right. So AI can be confidently wrong. Sometimes it leans heavily into GPS. Sometimes if it doesn't know an answer, it just predicts what might seem right. And that's when you get, hey, if the mozzarella is sliding off of your cooked pizza, maybe try adding a little glue. That happened.
Right.
That's real. That was, now a year ago when that happened. I don't think we could get the model to suggest glue on a pizza, but it is, it's important to recognize that it makes confident mistakes. And how you use AI, this is why attorneys are put before the bar for using AI and not fact-checking case law, because it makes up case law that fits the circumstance. So how you use AI is really important.
Okay. So I just want to clarify and review what you're saying here.
Yeah, please.
You're saying that just because you ask it a question and it comes up with an answer, that's not your resource. Like we can't just depend that that's going to be real information. So when you're doing research on something, like AI is not your resource. You need to actually dig deeper and find other actual papers that have been written, articles that have been written, real people who have said this is the truth or this is what we have found.
All of that, yes.
Okay.
Let me do a sidebar and introduce Perplexity AI. Perplexity is its own separate company that they've developed a sort of combination of models. When you use Perplexity AI, and I should say, I think Perplexity was the first model to do this, but some other models are starting to do this. When you use Perplexity AI, you ask it a research question. It goes out and it does the research for you, and it searches the web. So it uses its AI model, but it also gives you the links.
The link. Okay.
So you
can go into the link. Oh,
you build a report of all of this research, and it synthesizes it just like you'd expect AI to do. And then you can click the links to verify all the sources are sources that you would trust, that you would value, that you would feel comfortable suggesting to others. It is incredibly cool. Often, I'll take results from Perplexity and drop them into ChatGPT and say, do a fact check on this. And it'll come back and say, hey, this is right, because the new models of ChatGPT also now have started poking at the web. They're just more expensive to use. So
what's it called again?
Perplexity AI. And links obviously in the show notes. Okay, so just to wrap up this conversation on models, it is a really fast but imperfect assistant. It's so good for brainstorming, for summarizing, from learning from the data that you give it, but it's not always reliable and it should not be trusted as a search engine. If you search something on Google, the top section is now an AI
always
response.
AI, yes.
Always verify that, right? Because
yes.
It could just be wrong. And it's frustrating because Google is such a source of, or used to be a source of trust. Very frustrating. Anyhow, the best AI tools for ADHD don't just spit out answers. They help you structure your thinking and connect ideas in ways that reduce overwhelm. And when a company says we use a proprietary AI model, it really just means they've licensed other models and they've trained it, right, for their purposes. And some are great and some are junk. Okay.
Okay.
AI tools that I find work like my ADHD brain. And I am not, I'll say for a lot of these tools, I'm talking about these tools. I don't use them day to day, but I'm fascinated by what they offer. One area of these tools I'm deeply interested in and will land on one, but I have not chosen yet. So stay with me.
Oh no. Are we switching task managers?
We're absolutely not. We're not. I promise. I promise. Okay. I promise.
We just did that a year ago. Less than a year ago.
No, we're absolutely not. I can promise you that is not where I will land. And what I'm going to do in whatever I'm talking about will not impact you unless you just become a fan and decide to do it yourself. It's not going to put you to something new and weird. So for task management, there are a number
that
of
we are not switching. Just
we
want
are
to
not
say.
Well, we use Todoist as a team, and Todoist is great because Todoist does have AI built into it. Todoist allows you to do some really great things. First of all, you can say, hey, here's a task that I have. I need you to create a project and break it down into its subtasks. And then I'll review and make sure that they make sense for me. And that works very, very well. I think in my experience, that is a great thing. It's built right into Todoist. It's exactly what I need it to do. And it doesn't bloat the process. The other thing that Todoist does, which I think is straight up magical, is its filter language. Have you tried to set up a custom filter?
Yes.
It can be a little opaque, right? It's a little tricky to get that down for people who don't live in that syntax. It has a new filter AI where it just says, hey, tell us what tasks you want to see and how you want to see them, and in plain language, and we'll create a filter using our syntax that will work for you. And that is fantastic because you don't have to remember all the brackets and parentheses and ampersands and quotes.
Saves
you just
time.
tell it, hey, show me all the tasks that are assigned to me that have a deadline set in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all I want to see. And it'll do it. So their filter AI is fantastic. So I'm happy with Todoist.
Okay.
If you have a team and you are interested in AI, ClickUp and Asana both have AI built into them now. And it is very friendly for more complex project scheduling. Those are great tools. ClickUp and Asana both, I think, do work for individuals. ClickUp probably better than Asana, but really they're designed for teams that work together.
Asana especially. I'm not familiar with ClickUp, but I know I've used Asana, and that's definitely more team oriented.
ClickUp, Asana, Monday.com, like they're all designed for small to large teams, but really for the collaboration part.
Mm-hmm.
Motion, Akiflow, Sunsama. Now we've talked about Sunsama before, right?
People have, and Sunsama. I've heard of Motion.
Yeah. And same thing with another tool I'll talk about in a minute, or Reclaim. The Reclaim is from Dropbox. So what these tools do, they've trained their AI models to, you'll sign in, like you sign it, it's a product you have to pay for, but they allow you to sign in to your other tools, like your Google Calendar, and it applies its AI on top of your existing calendar. So you can say, hey, I'm trying to write a book. I know my best writing time is at 4 o'clock in the afternoons, Pacific time, but I'm really struggling with protecting that time. I need you to go forth and find me the best slots to work, and it'll go ahead and build out your writing calendar to actually get the job done. And it will protect the time for you so you don't have to think about it, right? You don't have to go manually block out all those calendars. It's great for meeting scheduling. It can say, hey, I need to find time for a half-hour meeting, and I need you to send the invite, and I need you to do all that work. That is an incredibly useful function of AI, of these AI services. It's not actually trying to be creative on your behalf. It's not trying to rewrite the great works of American literature and put your name on them, right? It's just trying to help you schedule your day. It's helping you schedule your tasks by priority and, how late they are, right? It's trying to help you think through the work of your day. So all of these tools are incredibly useful for figuring out how to structure your day in the calendar interface, right? So you're not, Poe is just a text bot, right? You can't say, schedule my day. Here's what I have to do. You'd have to type a lot to get it to give you essentially a bulleted list or a table. But that's not useful because it's not in the calendar. That's where I'm working. I need these tools built into my workbox first. So that's why I suggest looking at some of these tools. Now, Google, Gemini is Google's model, and Gemini is in everything now. And I think it's worth noting or keeping an eye on the functions that are built right into Google Calendar as a result of Gemini. And more of these features are coming. I'm not going to deep dive into specifically what they do, but it makes using the native Google Calendar website more interesting if you're all in on Gemini and their AI plans. So, interestingly, you can also access all the Gemini models in Poe. But you can see how these models do different things. They generate text in Poe. They operate on your calendar in Google Calendar. It's sort of magical, the way some of these things work. So idea capture and writing. So the brain dump process. Talked a lot about ChatGPT. And you can, if you're a paid subscriber of ChatGPT, you can upload your documents and essentially train your own model in a project. You can do the same thing with Claude by Anthropic if you're a paid member of those services. I have been using, because we're a Google shop, I've been using Google Notebook LM, which is the same thing. You take your documents, dump them into this notebook, and then you can essentially interview it. You're training a model based on your data, right? Your data, which is so cool. The first thing I did with this was I created a D&D bot. Because, I've told you, we have a long-running D&D campaign where no one's ever died and permanently. And so we have this legacy of and I record every session. So I have transcripts of every session. And I drop these transcripts and game summaries in Google Notebook LM, and then I can interview it when our memory fails. So I'm sitting there on my iPad in a game session, and somebody says, hey, when did we actually destroy our bag of holding by putting a bastard sword in it? I can search for those things, and it'll say, hey, it turns out this character was the idiot who actually put a bastard sword in a bag of holding and tore it to pieces. Those kinds of things are very useful. Now I'm using the D&D example, but you take your work projects and dump them into your Google Notebook LM, and suddenly you're creating a knowledge base for yourself. And I find that incredibly valuable. Incredibly valuable. That is, again, I'm not creating something with AI from scratch. I'm interrogating my own stuff with these AI tools. I'm interrogating my own stuff with these AI tools. I can't say that enough. That's the focus. Notion and Coda we use Coda, which is coda.io, which is a web service that allows us to keep all of our show databases up to date, all the show notes, all the links, everything lives in Coda. Notion is a similar personal knowledge management tool. These tools both have AI built into them. They allow you to convert your notes into organized knowledge bases. That's it. Very, very straightforward. I love Coda because everything is sort of table based, and I like being able to use AI to manipulate tables, to manipulate, to concatenate terms, to run calculations or summations in a way that is just vastly easier on very, very large tables than it was in Excel. It's actually improving those sorts of things. I should say Microsoft's Copilot is another model, and they are built into all of the Microsoft apps now. So if you're a Microsoft user, you can do very similar things in Excel that allow you to manipulate data in completely new ways using AI. But again, manipulating your data, not generating new data.
Right.
So those Notion, Coda, Reclaim, Clockwise is another one. Clockwise is a tool that dynamically schedules meetings and focus time. Very, very useful. Brain FM. We've actually talked about Brain FM on the show in the past, long time ago. Brain FM is an AI-generated music tool designed to stimulate focus for ADHD minds, right? So the whole idea is it's not binaural beats. We've talked about that too. We actually had the founder of one of these other tools on the show. This is one that just allows you to say, hey, I'm going into deep focus mode, and it uses AI plus these other waves integrated with real music, and it supposedly triggers something in your brain that allows you to think more clearly and more deeply. Your mileage may vary. I've talked to people who say this just doesn't work for me. I've talked to people who say I can't work without it. I don't know. I mean, you go to their website, it says, oh, the science is settled. I don't think the science is really settled. It feels like people are not quite ready to say, or else we'd all be using it all the time.
Yeah.
So, all right.
This is great.
Well, look,
great
you just shut me down. That was a great idea. Just Pete, you wind him up. You got to know when to put your hand on the table and say, Pete, time to shut it down.
Stop. Yeah.
So we're going to shut it down right now, but check the show notes. I'll have the links to the ClickUp and the Asana, all the stuff I've already mentioned. Next time, we're going to talk about the infinite rabbit hole effect. It goes into the problems of AI and some of the concerns that the rationalist groups have with AI, the ethics of AI. We're going to talk about how to use AI without losing yourself, and give you some my personal tech stack for all the tools I use that are AI or AI adjacent.
Well, and I can share too some of the ways that my clients have used it in simple ways, just to give people ideas and some thoughts around it.
I love this. That's next week.
That's
what we're going to do next week. Thank you, Nikki. Thank you, everybody, for downloading and listening to this show. We appreciate your time and your attention. Don't forget, I from the sounds of it, I think this might just be worth a chat in our Discord server. You can jump into the Show Talk channel there. If the deluxe level or better, just head over to patreon.com/the ADHD podcast to dive in and get access to all those goodies. Thank you for your support. On behalf of Nikki Kinzer, I'm Pete Wright, and we'll see you right back here next week on Taking Control, the ADHD podcast.